The reason that people should come and see this show is that it represents an African civilization at the height of its powers between the 11th and the 15th century, of which almost nothing was known about to the world beyond until the discovery of the works of art. A good deal of Ife art has been found by accident. In the dry season of 38-39, they were digging out the foundations for a house in the area behind the king's palace, and they found 17 cast brass heads and a half figure. And at that point, the king of Ife himself said, "But I've got 2 of these in my palace." And he produced a terracotta, the Lajua head, which is in the show, and the mask of Obaluvon, an early king of Ife, and the person who is credited with introducing brass casting to Ife.
This is a very fine bronze head, very similar to those that are on display in the exhibition of the Ife heads. This is made by a process known as hollow lost wax casting. In that, the first stage is to make a core of clay that will occupy the space inside. When that has been done and moulded, what one does then is coat it with wax. So put on wax to the thickness that you require. Then what the next stage is to actually do the important bit, the artwork. In other words, to carve the wax to the face. So in other words, you'll wind up with a wax looking exactly like this, with the clay core, solid clay core inside.
There are 2 kinds of holes. There are quite big holes in the neck, and they may have been for fitting the heads onto some kind of wooden body, which might be dressed. You then get smaller holes around the hairline, and almost certainly that's for the addition of a beard made out of small glass beads. And then you get holes around the top of the head, and that's fairly obviously for the attachment of some kind of crown. The heads must have been representing some kind of chiefly or royal person. Some of the heads, both in cast brass and in terracotta, have very close parallel marks down the faces, across the eyelids and even on the lip and so forth. And they could be some form of scarification, possibly indicating status, ritual status, political status. It could be to create a different kind of visual effect, or it could be because of some reason of which we know nothing.
At this stage, you then add pouring channels down which the metal will flow, and you have some other channels, once again in wax. The next stage then is to actually apply the very fine clay very carefully to the outside, to the thing, to create a negative mould.
One of the qualities that people often mention is that serenity, that sense of repose. And one of the things that we know from modern Yoruba culture is that the ideal way for a man or a woman of importance to present themselves is calm and dignified with your mouth shut.
The next stage then is to invert it and put it in the furnace so that the wax can run out. So you've now got a hollow space where the wax was. You then put that at a higher temperature and run in the molten brass and let the whole thing cool down. Take away the mould casing, and there is your head.
The overwhelming visual quality of those heads is their naturalism, an idealized naturalism. In other words, Ife has made us expand our view of what is truly African.